Hello there, Michelle. Okay, so usually it would be a bit quicker. I've just been tied up recently. So let's jump into your work. Now, I looked at the question and I looked at your quick sort of like idea, and a few alarm bells sort of like rang. Okay, so in many countries, traditional foods have been replaced by fast food. Okay, so I don't know. In England, it would be Yorkshire pudding being replaced by McDonald's, for example. This has a negative impact on families, individuals, and society. I agree. Okay? I agree. The loss of Yorkshire pudding for England, replaced by American food, is a loss of culture. It's a loss of heritage. Okay? So that would be sort of like my body paragraph one. And it's terrible, and there's some there is some health risks at first. My first idea, it's quite simple, it's quite straightforward, it's easy to explain. Okay, this may be, a little bit, possibly overthinking it. Okay, the MSG, I like the, flavor bomb and all this excellent knowledge you have of the topic. Okay, but there's nothing here. There's only this traditional food. Okay, there's only traditional food that has any relevance to this, to the actual question of agreeing of fast food having a negative impact. Okay, we've just gone on to MSG and sort of like, okay, yeah, there's nothing really here much about traditional food, and that is the debate, Okay, so that was my initial sort of like perception. Disagree. Government campaigns, medical research in diet, nutrition, and a back-to-basics approach to food have been part of our life. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so here, I personally would have gone with, I disagree that fast food has a negative impact on families. I think it's really quite good because they get extra time to spend with their family rather than working in the kitchen. Two, it can create family experiences. For example, in some parts of the world, it's commonplace to have a Sunday dinner together in McDonald's. I don't know if that's true, but it could be relatively true. I think actually some friends of mine back in England used to do this every Sunday with their family. Okay, but I'm not going to mention some friends of mine. I would say in some parts of the world it is common on a Sunday afternoon to have a family meal in McDonald's, because that just sounds more academic. Okay, and I might put a little concession and say that although it could be perceived as slightly less nutritious, the gain in time and the gain in quality time spent together vastly outweighs this, especially in Western society where most families are time poor, something like that. Okay, and yeah, it just keeps it simple, So let's have a look. Also, I noticed this sentence, which doesn't really seem to have a sort of like direct link to anything about food. Okay, I've got to make a big jump here. I could talk about this about nuclear power, about climate change, about crime, about immigration, So that's why it would be kind of like a bit weak. It's what I call personally like a copy-paste, empty sentence that I could put in any essay. So we've just got to be careful about those. I think just changing it moderately would be something like the phenomenon of food production, consumption, and I don't know, something else, industry or something like that. The experience in the last 50 years, society experienced dramatic changes largely due to globalization, and this is definitely the case for food production, consumption, and distribution. probably the best saying distribution, production, distribution, and consumption. That's a logical flow. And we've got a little list there of some adjectives some nouns that are wholly relevant to this topic. Okay. Once upon a time, that is more we would never see that in an academic paper. Once upon a time. Okay, this is more for storytelling. It's more a different style of writing. Okay, so yeah, I would leave that out. In previous years, or let's see, I don't know, pre-industrialization, pre-globalization, most countries, because here, if we just say countries were isolated from one another, this is what I mentioned in our call. This is a lack of hedging. We have to say most countries because we've got to give ourselves a little margin, with a little bit of wiggle room, we can say, because otherwise it's an absolute statement which isn't true. Once upon a time, or in the past, countries were isolated from one another. And you can always argue that's not true, because you can say Italy and France, that, you know, near the borders, they practically spill over into each other, like diet-wise and cuisine-wise, because it's just the same geographic area. You know, so they weren't isolated. So that's why there's always an argument against sweeping statements. But we can hedge against that by saying most countries were isolated from one another. Okay, for example, in maybe Ukraine and Budapest, because the Carpathian Mountains, they were isolated. There wasn't that much interaction between them. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So we say most countries were isolated from one another, and so were the traditional customs, plural. Since the technology boom, this seems a little bit out of the blue as well. It's like, whoa, which technology boom are we talking about? The Industrial Revolution, the dot-com boom of the 90s? Which one? So even though in your mind it might be clear, and I guess maybe it could be related to the last 50 years, in your mind it might be clear, but from a reader's point of view, it's like, whoa, where did this pop up from? Where did this boom come from? Okay? So let's just skip that sentence at the moment. Or even just make it more relevant. So since the technology boom starting in the 70s, these countries have moved further together. Could be. To become interlocked into one big melting pot. Okay. Also, again, maybe you want to hedge that and say most of us, instead of saying we have all. You know, because there's obviously still, we're not totally melting together in a pot, you know. So anyway, gone are the unique values, traditions and cuisines of far distant countries, and in are the fast-paced societies where quick, poor quality and disposable food become the norm. Okay, that's a good sentence, a nice little contrast there. I wouldn't have said disposable food. Most food is disposable. I think what we're talking about is disposable packaging, or disposably packaged food. But also, again, it's kind of like a bit of a generalization, but it's fine. Fast-paced societies where quick, poor quality food become the norm. Quick, poor quality food, or with disposable packaging. I'd just be tempted just to scrap that. Okay? Certainly, fast food meals have replaced many of the more time-consuming dishes of many cultures. In fact, the American way of life, has spread to every continent and impacted people's eating habits. Good. Again, just be careful. The hedging has spread to almost every continent. You know, there'll be some place in the world, Papua New Guinea in the jungle, where they don't have McDonald's. You know, it's just the hedging gets you out of that accusation. Furthermore, fast food chains have been the trendy stops where many blockbusters are filmed, so that these people become embedded in pop culture. These places become embedded in pop culture. For me, this is a bit of a it's a bit of a long sentence. It's a bit difficult. Furthermore, fast food chains have been the trendy stops where many blockbusters are filmed. Comma. These restaurants, okay, because then I know, these restaurants have then just help sort of like the delivery of information, have then become have usually become embedded in pop culture. Okay, now we've just made a claim here, so it's probably, sometimes it's a good idea just to back that up, for example. But even then, I think, is this anything to do with this? Traditional foods are being replaced by fast food. This has a negative impact on families, individuals, and society. And we're talking about blockbusters and how they become part. I think we could say it's a little bit off topic. However, the discovery of the fifth taste was the game changer. Japanese, I think this might have been the reason, Michelle, why we dropped to the 7, because I think you've definitely got the writing skills for a 7 or higher, definitely, without doubt. But we're off topic here, yeah. Tsunami was a game changer. Japanese scientist was able to produce a natural taste found in many fast foods and added to everyday dishes known as MSG. Most fast food meals are drenched in MSG, and this taste is responsible for the additive flavor. Okay, we don't want to know why they're so popular in society. Okay, it's having a negative impact. Why? Okay, or do you agree? Sorry. Do you agree it's having a negative impact? That's the argument here. Okay. So, I would have talked about the loss of culture. So I agree it is having a negative impact because, I don't know, nowadays Italian children are eating McDonald's, Big Macs, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, instead of traditional gnocchi made by the parents and their village specialities. This was a major incident in Genova in 2018, when 3 out of 10 children were reported to be suffering from obesity. If they had maintained their traditional diet, it could be assumed that these health risks could be avoided. Just something like that, and it's all on topic about fast food having a negative impact on families, individuals, and society. Okay? Let's see. Luckily, not all is lost to medical research that traditional ways of cooking, eating, and producing food, nicely done, are still the best option. Super. It is certain that many people have noticed the ill effects that eating too much fast food has on people, and the better educated and informed people are, the better they look after what they choose to. Wow, way too long. Okay, way too long. There's no comma in there either. Okay, so I'd break this up, and the fact that I have to go back and reread it is an example of sort of like reader strain, which the examiner would probably suffer from as well. It is certain that many people have noticed the ill effects. Okay, certain that many people, why don't we say scientists or food specialists, and then we avoid the repetition and we've got better upgraded vocabulary. That many scientists have noticed the ill effects of sounds slightly better, of eating too much fast food has on people. Full stop. Oftentimes, or usually, the better educated and informed often have better health. I just don't like using better so many times. So we could say, oftentimes, upper echelons of society, or the more educated people, often have healthier diets. Okay, it's just healthier diets is better than saying look after their health, look after what they choose to eat. It's just a little bit more concise and it's less wordy. Therefore, many initiatives have taken place in society that promote back to like it used to be not too long ago. Okay, so again, that could probably be rephrased to be a little bit more succinct. There's been a back to the basics approach where locally produced organic consumable items are more popular than imported frozen ones. Okay, The slow food movement promotes eating local produce only, and the overwhelming amount of research that proves we should eat food that you can tell what's in, we don't use contractions, has once again become popular. Okay, so there's no example here really that proves your case. For example, in the 1980s, a local movement in Italy started to push for organic produce. This drastically reduced diabetes in the area by 15%, something like that. As you work through the course, you'll see how we teach you to give examples. All in all, I wouldn't have said that. In conclusion, is fine. It is a true fact. That's a bit redundant as well. Facts are all true, so we have to get rid of true. So let's see. It's like saying a fast minute. The fast doesn't really add anything to the sentence because a minute is a minute wherever you are. Anyway, it's a true fact that fast food outlets that promote quick, flavoursome and trendy meals swamped our local shops. Hold on, before I go into the conclusion, let's just see. So here we're slightly better on topic. Okay. Well, actually, I would have gone, as I said, I would have taken it a different way. Okay. This has a negative impact on families. So actually, we're saying the government covers on this. Okay, so it's still a little bit unclear. My example at the beginning, just sort of like, I agree it has a negative impact. I disagree because of the time element families can save. And then in conclusion, because although there are some time benefits, overall the health benefits, the health impact is very dangerous for society, not to mention the slow deterioration of traditional cultures, something like that. It's just clearer, I find. All in all, it's the true fact that, nonetheless, there is the back to basics trend is the usual phrase, back to basics. When people see the consequences of what poor eating habits have on one's health, it has somehow become an informed choice whether people will eat fast food or not, and in my personal view, a matter of thought intelligence. So I've read it, but I'm not really clear where your position is, so I have to reread it again. I think part of the problem is you've got these long wordy sentences. I think if we go for clarity, and just make positions clearer in each paragraph, will benefit a lot. And I think that's probably the main reason, Michelle, why we're stuck on the 7. But I think you'll be able to have your appointment with Helen soon, hopefully early April. In the meantime, I think you could work through the course. Feel free to send me another essay once you've worked through the course. And also just triple check it for being on topic as well. Okay, feel free to send me another email and another essay. We've got to get you that. We're going to get you the band score you deserve. Get you that 8 or 9. Okay, take care.